All right. So welcome to a Thursday edition of the Endless Party Radio Show. Those of you people that are on Facebook Live, right now, what you need to do is y'all need to get over to colossalradio.rocks. Hit the listen live button. I made it as simple as possible. Even for those of you that have like a plate in your head, I made it as simple as possible. Or the technology guys behind the scenes have. Colossalradio.rocks. Hit the listen live button. Those of you that are on board with the website, that's great. You can listen there. Or by way of Colossal Radio phone app. It is a free phone app. All you do is go to your phone, go to your app store, and download it. It's that easy, man. Then you can rifle it into Bluetooth as well, right? You can do all that, right? You can do all that. I have somebody that is on board here with the show, and his name is Larry Kenney. And some of you might not recognize Larry. Going, I don't know who Larry Kenney is. Actually, you will know exactly who Larry Kenney is. But before we get into that, let's just say hey to Larry Kenney and say welcome to Colossal Radio. Larry, are you there?
I'm here, and I'm very interested to find out who this guy is.
Larry,
I've never heard of him.
that's funny. Larry Kenney on board, and he is the voice of many. And before we get into that, where you recognize some things that Larry Kenney has done, let's start in the beginning a little bit. I mean, I know you have some appearances that are coming up. Here's a guy that's been doing radio for a long time, and before we went on the air, he said, you always got to keep moving forward in this business, and once you catch this kind of bug that we have, it's hard to get rid of it. It's hard to get rid of what we do. But for Larry Kenney, where did it all start, man? Where did it all start for you?
You remind me of on the old Mary Tyler Moore show, Ted Baxter. He used to always, remember Ted Baxter?
Yes.
It all started in Peoria, Illinois, at a 5,000-watt radio. I'm from a town called Pekin, Illinois, which is near the nearest big city is Peoria, Illinois, and that's where I started radio back in 1963,
Right.
when everything was black and white, even on the radio.
Yeah.
And So I was 15 years old, still in high school, junior in high school, and that's where I started. And then I moved eventually on to Fort Wayne, Indiana, to WOWO, and then I moved to, where did I go then? Cleveland, Chicago, and New York, where I've been for, 45 years, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I read, and I was teasing this for a couple of hours, and like I said, some of you, I would think, would remember Larry, even from Imus in the morning, where Larry was a staple on that whole morning show team, and with Imus in the morning, and that certainly, I'm sure, was a hell of a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was a great long run, too. I was eventually with him for 35 years.
Yeah.
And, it's a long time.
How about it?
And we did, of course, we started out as a radio show, and then it turned into a television show of television production of a radio show, and then, it became syndicated. And I got 35 years. I think I started with him in 73 when I was in Chicago.
Wow, man. How about it? And you still stay in touch?
I'm sorry?
Are you still in touch? You guys still stay in touch?
No, I haven't talked to Don since I left the show back in 2008, which is pretty much the norm for Mr. Imus. You don't really once he's done with you, that's it. I mean, he is not a well, anybody who's listened to him knows he's exactly what he sounds like on the air. He's a curmudgeon.
Yeah.
He's does not like people and does not like to be around people except his family.
Yeah.
And if there's no absolute need for him to talk to you, you won't hear from him, which is fine. I mean, I talked to him enough in 35 years.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, really. Yeah, no. But it's like I like to, like I said, I love to give the background for people. Those of you that are on board, it's Larry Kenney, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you that are on board listening, those of you on Facebook Live, get on over. We'll have this in the archive section though later on the website. But Larry Kenney, long time, and know him. I know him from just with Imus in the morning. And speaking of that, how about when the whole Stern Imus thing started going on, when they were all pissed off at each other. How about that, right?
When who's mad at who?
when Stern and Imus were going back and forth, you were right there in the heat of it all. Then, you know, with that.
Oh yeah, I was there for everything. Yeah, it was kind of a roller coaster ride. You know, for the first several years, from '73 when I first started with him until the early '80s. Don had a problem, you know, with drinking and drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Which he talks about freely. I wouldn't bring that up if he, you know, somebody who had not already discussed this himself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was very, very heavily into cocaine and alcohol and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a little rough, you know, because he wouldn't show up a lot of times, and when he did, he was yelling at everybody and throwing things and all that. But he God bless him, he got over that. He's totally stopped drinking and stopped doing drugs, and stopped throwing things at people. he still kept yelling at everybody, but at least he didn't throw things at them.
It's you know, one hell of a history, and like I said, being there associated with that. For those of you that are listening, that I don't know. I've been blessed enough to work for some really great radio stations. Some very good in the entire country, but Larry Kenney certainly coming through the ranks with and playing with the big boys, man. So you know, you got off of that. You went from Imus in the morning and doing radio for a long time into like voice acting, and if you can hear it right here, guys. I mean, one hell of a voice that Larry Kenney has, and I don't know what. Who'd you bring, Larry? Who'd you bring with you? Who'd you bring with you today?
Well, in terms of the characters that I've done, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, first of all, I was doing voiceover even before I met Imus. I met Don I met him in '74, actually. He and I were both working in Cleveland at different radio stations back in the early '70s, and he left to go to New York. I had never met him. He left to go to New York, and I left to go to Chicago to be a disc jockey in Chicago. And one morning, his engineer, who was mine in Cleveland, called me and said, "Hey, you know, Imus just found out that I worked with you. I was your board engineer at KYC in Cleveland. And he listened to you all the time there, and he liked the stuff you did, the voices and stuff, and he wants to know if you'd like to be on his New York show, via the telephone, of course." So for an entire year, almost exactly a year, he would call me maybe twice a morning. We both had the news on at the top of the hour, so he would call and say, for example, let's do Nixon today. And we'd discuss very briefly what it was going to be about, you know. And then we would ad-lib 2.5, 3 minutes. He would tape that and then play it during his show. And I got $50 a day, which was great money back then.
Wow.
So then I moved to New York a year later, and that's when we were able to team up face-to-face and start working on his show. Now, you asked me what characters I brought. Well, I brought Lion-O with me. Lion-O was the leader of the Thundercats. A lot of people might remember an 80s cartoon show called the Thundercats.
I do.
And I played Lion-O and Jackalman, and we all played lots of different characters.
Yeah.
Now, Lion-O is pretty much my voice. You know, it's not a character voice, really. It was just my voice, a little more dramatic. I mean, as I'm talking to you here, I might say, "Sword of Omens, come to my hand, I, Lion-O, command it." But on television, it came out, "Sword of Omens, come to my hand, I, Lion-O, command it." See, that's acting.
I love it, man. I love it. We all remember Lion-O. I mean, we all remember so many. Then, I mean, and keep going. If I miss something here, just jump in here. You've been doing this already.
Well, okay. People might also know me from, you mentioned Imus, where I did lots and lots of different voices over the years. The main ones were Richard Nixon. I was the guy who always said, "Imus in the morning, I don't know." And I did George Patton and Teddy Kennedy, who often said, "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it." And then people probably have also heard some of the commercials I've done over the years as characters. For about 40 years, I've been the voice of Sonny, the Cocoa Puffs bird. The guy who says, "Up here, I will go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs." Yahoo! That was funny.
Is that cool or what? Because somebody just commented on my show with some things that I do here in the studio.
You said doo-doo.
You know, exactly right. And they called me. They said, "You know what? You are Cocoa for Cocoa Puffs." That's what they said. You know, so they're throwing me under that category. They're going, "You know what? There's something wrong with you. You are Cocoa for Cocoa Puffs." And this then was this was a couple of weeks ago, and then my booking agent Dave Miller, who I got to give it up for, what a great guy. He's got some great connections, and I'm so grateful that he reached out to you. That we got Larry.
Yeah, he's the guy who contacted me.
He is, yeah. Larry Kenney on board with us right now, guys. Larry Kenney, voice of you just heard Sonny and Lion-O and Richard Nixon and I don't know Teddy Kenney, but so much, and worked for Imus in the Morning. Larry Kenney on board with the show. But it's funny, a couple of weeks ago, like I said, so ironic, where somebody said, "You are Cocoa for Cocoa Puffs." And now I've got the guy on the show, which that was totally how ironic, man. But
isn't that something? Let me correct you though. I'm sorry, Doc, but it's cuckoo for
cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
we have Sonny. But we got Sonny. We have Lion-O.
Yeah.
Like there's so many that you've done. So many.
Count Chocula. I've been the voice of Count Chocula for 40 years.
I think we need to hear that. I think we need for you to say something in Count with. There are people that still eat that cereal, I think.
Well, I tell you what. In one commercial about 30 years ago, I got to sing as Count Chocula. So I'd like to do that for you, if I may.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, let's do it.
Okay. Count Chocula cereal is coming your way. How about the monster for breakfast today? They're frightfully delicious.
Amazing. And I'll bet you got more than $50 on that one, though. I'll bet you.
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah.
It's to get into that, you really, and to get into character. It takes a lot of work. It's nothing that I mean, you have to have some natural ability, obviously, to do what we do. But it's something. I mean, you definitely have to get into character, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's true, Doc. However, I never really. I'm the kind of a guy. Well, I'm lazy, first of all, and I never spend a lot of time working on voices. You know, if I could open my mouth and do them, fine, let's do that. But if it was going to take a lot of work, I should let somebody else do it. No, I'm exaggerating, but I really, people always say, well, how do you prepare your voice for a recording session? How do you do exercises and things like that? No, I just never have. I know people who do, and it works for them, and that's fine. But I don't know. I had this natural ability. My mom told me from several times has told me that I was doing cartoon voices from the moment I could talk.
Wow.
Now I'm sure that's a little exaggeration. Mom tends to do that. But, yeah, she said I do remember at a very early age watching cartoons on TV like everybody did, and copying the voices and going around the house, doing, what's up, Doc? Stuff like that.
There you are.
So I don't know. It just was a natural thing for me, and thank God, because I have no other skills.
It's I feel the same. I feel the same way, man. I mean, the only thing I've ever done longer than radio is run a freaking floor buffer. That's all I've ever done longer. That's all I've ever.
Right?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, I'm sure you were very good at it.
Yeah, I was all right, I guess, until I started bumping into the beds of the poor old people that were laying in the freaking convalescent home. For Christ's sake, it was not, not.
Now what am I gonna do? Radio.
Yeah, radio, or am I going to continue to keep buffing floors, man? I don't know, but somehow it's lasted for myself for, I don't know, maybe upwards of like 35 years, for Christ's sake,
wow.
and I'm still trying to get it right. I still suck.
Well, you know what? There aren't that good for you, because there aren't that many people I've come across who've been in that business for 35, 40 years.
Well, yeah, it really is crazy. I've been behind the mic for a long time, and not to get off track or anything with Larry Kenney, voice of we'll get Larry in there with a couple of more voices. One thing I do have to do, though, I have to get you to do something in a voice for Colossal Radio. That's what I do need. But
sure.
But
sure.
I am very honestly, we're doing this for a long time, and again, I want to just go back on this with Larry when he first called in and we first started talking. This is what we do. It's what I do. It's what he does and continues to do. And it doesn't come without hard work. It doesn't come without effort. It doesn't come without putting in your time. I'm so blessed to do something in a hometown of mine where I grew up, right here in Lehighton, Pennsylvania, right here in Carbon County, right here in the Poconos, and to do something that is outside the norm, something that is a little different. I'm really not, this is no disrespect, and Larry, you've seen it, and we've lived it, and the corporate side of things on the radio end anymore is very different. This is no disrespect, no disrespect to anybody that's in it, because I've got a lot of great friends, as Larry does. We are nationwide with this. With internet radio now, but it's no disrespect, but it's really changed a lot, Larry. It's really changed.
Oh, it sure has. Yes, it has. As everything else has with technology.
Exactly.
Computers completely changed. What was that song? Video killed the radio star. That was the first thing when MTV came out.
Yeah.
So there are, a lot of people can do what you do now. You're doing a radio show basically on the computer, on the internet, right?
Right.
And who could have foreseen that coming? But there are lots of other changes too. One of the things that I find not as fun anymore as it used to be, especially in the commercial production area. I miss the days when there would be 6 or 7 of us actors in a studio doing a commercial and then doing another commercial, doing a series of commercials. And now, almost everything I do, I'm alone in a small booth.
Yep.
And sometimes the producers aren't even there. They're on the phone, on a phone patch or ISDN line or something like that, whatever they call them.
Yeah.
I'm not technically very adept like most old people, but it used to be so much more fun. You were part of a group. You were interacting, and so I miss that part of it. But like you said, things change, and what are you going to do? You got to go with the flow. Yeah,
you do. You stay ahead of the curve. You keep moving forward, like I said, we did. But it was fun. I mean, you had that more personal touch, and that was the whole. That was actually the whole idea with the location that I have here. And you people know this. I don't know, talking to Larry Kenney, voice of many. And a staple on Imus in the morning for a long time, forever. But the point is my location here. I'm trying to bring that back a little bit, even with internet. Otherwise, I mean, I have people sometimes that roll into this studio, hang out, local people, even business people with a spotlight. Make it feel like it's their own. Make it feel like how radio used to be. How radio used to be, and that was my whole idea. In putting it all
I really admire you and really envy you somewhat because you're able to be right there where you grew up, in your home area and doing what you love. One of my regrets in life is that when I was 18 years old, I left Illinois, to pursue a radio career. And back in those days, if you wanted to make the big time, you had to move around a lot. You didn't just go from Peoria to New York.
Right.
You went from Peoria to Fort Wayne, and then maybe to Omaha. Something, you climb the ladder.
Sure.
These days, I don't even know how they do it these days. But and back then, a disc jockey, now a disc jockey, I guess they're called DJs, and they spin records at nightclubs. But back then, the radio was filled with DJs, with creativity, with their own style, their own kind of music they wanted to play, and everybody was different, and there were people who were stars as disc jockeys,
right?
And literally, made a lot of money and were very well known because they were on the radio. You don't have much of that anymore.
Yeah,
it's all syndicated.
Yeah, sure it is. Yeah, it most definitely is. And again, you keep moving forward, and I'm just trying to do some unique things. And like I said, it's very non-traditional with what I have going on here, but I like it that way. And it's there's kind of
Yeah.
like there is kind of a plan, despite those of you people thinking there is no plan. So those of you that are listening to ColossalRadio.rocks or on the phone app, there is a little bit of a plan. So
Exactly.
it's all
A lot of
good.
preparation.
Exactly.
A lot of prep.
Yeah, there really is.
Yeah.
So, with other voices, though, I mean, we had Count Chocolaty. What are maybe a couple more that maybe we didn't touch base on, or a couple of things that you'd like to highlight? And
I'm trying to think of things that I have on the air now that people, it's nice to say he used to do this and used to do that.
right,
Let's see. I do the Skittles commercials. Skittles candy.
yeah.
I'm the guy at the end of everyone that says, "Feel the rainbow, taste the rainbow."
Oh, get out! I did not know that was you. Is it you?
Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Wait, do that again.
Feel the rainbow, taste the rainbow.
That is great. I didn't see. I did not know. I did not.
It's been
know.
about 15 years, I guess. It's been going. Great
Wow.
gig.
How about that?
Well, the great thing about that gig is I say one new word every time I go in to do a commercial. It's always something the rainbow, taste the rainbow.
No kidding. That's it.
I once said to him, why don't you book me for 2 or 3 days, and I'll come in, and all day long we'll record every verb in the English language. And that way you won't have to drag me in here every time. Just to say color or touch. But it's worked out well,
That's funny. Like that is that's totally funny. But what the hell? They're paying you, so no biggie, man.
Yeah.
Now listen. Do you have a studio in your house then as well? Or are you able to do some things right out of your house?
I do not have a studio. I have a very good microphone and some baffling, and it makes the quality sufficient to send auditions to my agent's office. It would not be considered air quality. So, but it cuts down on my having to go into New York, for every single audition.
Yeah.
And it's an hour train ride, not a big deal. But you get to a certain age and you want to put your feet up a while, So I have this little a good mic and in my office, and I can send in an audition, and then if they want me to record it, of course I go in the city and record it in the studio.
Yeah, right, exactly. The notoriety of Larry Kenney on board here with us, doing some things from the voice of Count Chocula, Lion-O, Richard Nixon. How is that? That ought to be a big thing then. Can we get something out of Richard Nixon? Remember that poor bastard.
Well, here's the thing, Doc. Can I call you Doc?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Call me anything you want.
The Nixon thing came about because I did an album with Earl Dowd, the guy who produced the first Family album. I don't know if you remember the first Family album. It was about the Kennedys, and it came out in like 1965 or... No, it was when Kennedy was president, so it had to be before 63. About 62 it came out, and a guy named Vaughn Meter was playing Kennedy, and that turned out to be the biggest selling record album of all time, up to that point. And I'm not just talking about comedy albums. It beat Elvis, it beat everybody else. It was sold millions and millions of copies. Well, in 73, 10 years later, I get a call from Earl Dowd, who was the producer of that album. And he wanted to do a new album, a Nixon album. So we did it. It was called the Honest to God, We Really Mean It Very Last Nixon album. And it turned out to be, because by the time we got it recorded and distributed, we all knew the guy was a crook, So it didn't do very well. In fact, Earl Dowd told me that, he said, I'll give you the same deal I gave Vaughn Meter. He said, I offered Vaughn, let me think now, I forget the exact numbers, but he said, I offered Vaughn $50,000 up front, or 25 cents an album.
Oh.
I said, which one did Vaughn Meter take? He said, unfortunately, he took the $50,000, because he would have made a couple million if he had taken the 25 cents an album. But that was the deal he made. So I said, well, I'm no dummy. I'll take the 25, or by this time it's 35 cents an album. I'll take the 35 cents an album, and you can keep the $50,000. You know, I'm making a lot more. So I did, and we sold 4 copies. So there you go. So yeah.
That's
not a good choice.
That is.
It was actually a pretty funny album, but again, by the time it came out in the spring of '74, you know, nobody wanted to listen to anything about Richard Nixon.
Yeah, right.
But it was actually pretty good. Julie Newmar played Pat Nixon on it, and there were a couple other pretty well-known people on it. It was actually a good album. Some of it parodied the original album.
Right.
Well, there was one bit where I'm talking with David Eisenhower, and I say, David, I hate to bring this up, but do you remember 2 weeks ago when I lent you $10? And David Eisenhower says, I forget who played him. He says, "Oh, Mr. President, that's right. And here, I have it for you here right now. Here's the $10." And I say, "Thank you, David." And he starts walking away, and you hear me going, 1, 2. You hear David Eisenhower going as he walks away, 1, 2, and I go, "It's all there, David. It's all there, David."
Why is the that and the line that sticks out the line that sticks out the most that most people remember is what is that? "I am not a crook." Is that what he said?
I am not a crook. Exactly. People have the right to know if their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. I'm an asshole. Yes, I'm an idiot, but I'm not a crook.
About that, boy. He went down in flames there. My Lord, how about it? Crazy stuff. Back in the day, man. Back in the day. It's, everything that, Larry Kenney on board here with us that he has done over a pretty darn stellar career, man. From, voices from Count Chocula, as we just mentioned, Lion-O, Richard Nixon on albums, meeting A-list celebrities, Imus in the morning. Pretty crazy. Do you ever think leaving Illinois at 18 years old that it would all end up into this?
Never really. Of course, you couldn't tell. You know, I mean, there was no way to know that. But it's funny. From the time I was a little kid, I'd be watching Johnny Carson and people like that, and I just had this thing in the back of my head. I'm going to be doing that someday. It wasn't like I'd like to or I'm going to try to. I just kind of knew I was almost as if I was in show business already. You know, it's a crazy thing, but I kind of always knew it. And of course, I got such an early start too when I was 15 years old, so that helped.
Yeah.
You know, there are few people that at 15 years of age know exactly what they want to do the rest of their life.
Yeah. How about it?
I was lucky.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, you got still a great voice. Unbelievable. That's the thing with, radio voiceover work. I mean, what the hell? They could wheel us in on a wheelchair, Larry. If we still have the voice, what the frick? Jesus Christ Almighty, we could still make money.
That's right. Well, people ask me, "Are you going to retire?" And I say, "Hell, I'm going to keep talking. I might as well get paid."
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly.
And there's no heavy lifting.
No.
There's no heavy lifting.
No, there's nothing. No, at all. Yeah. So I don't know. The voices are one thing. I like the history behind it all. I don't know if anybody has anything for Larry or they want to hear another voice here or something that we'll do Count Chocula again. That's a big one. But I didn't know about the Skittles, which is kind of crazy. Now every time I hear that, I'm going to go, holy Christ, that's Larry Kenney. But give us do we have a memorable moment? I mean, because I have a lot of them from doing radio, from guests, studio guests, good-looking women, strippers, whatever I had in. Like, is there anything, because Stern has nothing on me anyway. He'd like to think he does. That's only because he's Jewish. It's like, listen, he has nothing on me. So, neither does Imus, so whatever. The deal is there anything that sticks out? Any kind of stupid, crazy radio story to entertain me as another radio host?
So many. I can't think of one. Doesn't stick out in my mind on radio. I did a game show for a few years in New York called Bowling for Dollars.
What?
It was on in several. Yeah, it was on in several cities.
I knew that.
Yeah, I think Wink Martindale did it in San Francisco, and somebody else did in L.A. I did the New York one. Anyway, it was a show where all you had to do was send in a postcard, and if it was picked out of this thing called the Pin Pal Barrel, you could be on the show.
Right.
Oh yeah, and we never met the people until they arrived for the taping. So you can imagine. Sometimes it was a little sketchy, you know. And before each show, I would sit down with each contestant individually and just ask them a few questions. I would make my own notes on a cue card. And, you know, I would refer to the cue card over their shoulder and say, I understand that you're married, you know, this and that. One time I didn't have much time with this. We were on a kind of a tight schedule. And I didn't have too much time to talk to this one guy. So he comes out eventually on the show. I said, let's welcome Joe Blow from Brooklyn. He comes out, and I say, Joe, what do you do for a living? And, you know, of course, I knew. He says, yeah, I'm a construction on this and that. And I said, how about your wife? What? He looks at me and he says, I don't know. I ain't seen the bitch in 3 years. I said, okay. Why don't you go over there and roll that bowling ball now and get me out of
this was this taped or was it live at the time?
Yeah, fortunately it was on tape. Yeah.
All right.
It was on tape. Yeah. Well, you couldn't do that show live because, you know, like I said, you didn't know anything about these people until they got there.
That is funny.
And, yeah.
That's funny.
So I wish I could come up with a really good radio moment for you, but I really can't. I mean,
no, that's all right, man. It's all good. I hear it. I throw that out even to people that I talk to from from the Charlie Daniels people to the Ted Nugents and people that I have had on my show. I mean, a lot of people. I'm just bringing those two out. Just I don't know. They just popped into my head, but there's so many, and you and I can both relate. There's just so many things that went on. I do remember on Imus back in the day, man, and it was really big. You can still find this on YouTube, and I'm sure Larry will remember this. Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes jamming in the studio there with Imus in the morning was really cool back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
it was a great show to do because you got to meet so many big bands and actors and politicians and things like that over the years. So it was a good education, you know.
Yeah, how about it, man? And I'll tell you what an illustrious career, Larry Kenney, and like you said, all over, you know, and doing so many things. And you have some appearances coming up. Where are you heading to? Virginia?
Oh, you've done your homework. Yeah, I'm going down to the. I do Comic-Cons, and I'm sure everybody knows what those are.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing one in Virginia Beach on this month, May 18th and 19th.
Mm-hmm.
In June, I'll be in Long Island, New York, at the Cradle of Aviation Museum for the Cradle Con. And August, I'm going to be at Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut. It's a comic that's called Terrificon.
Mm-hmm.
September, I think I'm going to Windsor, Ontario, Canada. And then November, South Carolina. So it's, I'm doing a lot more of those this year than I have in the past. I really enjoy it.
For those of you, Larry, explain to them, for those of you that don't know what Comic-Con is, do you want to explain that to them?
Oh, my gosh. Well, my son had to explain it to me. He's the one who got me into them about 10, 12 years ago. I hadn't heard about them.
Mm-hmm.
And they started out as actually comic book conventions, people who collected comic books.
Yep.
This is back in the 50s they started doing that, or the 60s, you know, these comic conventions. And it has grown over the years to pop culture convention.
Yep.
It's all a nostalgia thing. Mostly things from the 80s, 70s and 80s, like cartoon shows. You'll find people there, men and women who did voices on cartoons like me.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find people who were on sitcoms, like a good friend of mine is Larry Storch, who was Agarn on F Troop back in the 70s, 60s.
Yeah.
He's 94 and he's still doing the Comic-Cons.
No kidding.
Amazing.
That's
incredible. He's still, anyway, and now movie stars too. At some of the bigger Comic-Cons, and of course TV, Star Trek people are always there. Star Wars people are there. Harry Potter people are there. The bigger the Comic-Con, you'll see more big stars, you know. But the ones I like to do and the ones I do most of are ones where it's mostly voice actors, and artists, people who draw the cartoons, and the illustrators, animators, whatever. Although they're not animated anymore. So that's what a Comic-Con is, and so people come and they get to meet meet people like me and get an autograph, and then there's a huge selection of things that people are selling, like action toys, action figures, costumes. Costume is a big thing. They call it cosplay, where people come to the thing dressed up as their favorite character. So it's really a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I knew what it was, but for those of you that don't, and you can see them, they've like you said, they've taken on a pop culture all their own. With everything you've done, I hope you're not giving away autographs, because I'd be freaking selling them. That's what I'd be doing.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Doc, because my whole life, since Thundercats especially, I've been sending out pictures to all over the world, and people would write me and ask me for an autographed picture. And I never charged anybody. In fact, I pay for the postage. I paid for have the pictures printed myself. I just felt I owed the fans that, So when my son came to me about, I guess about 12 years ago, and said, "Dad, you got to go to these Comic-Cons," he had to explain to me what it was, of course. And I said, "I can't do that. I give autographs away free. I don't charge people for my autograph. I don't feel right." And he said, "Well, Dad, that's what, when people come to these Comic-Cons, they expect that. They come there because they want to get your autograph."
Right.
And they expect to pay for it. I said, "Well, okay, I'll try it." But so it took me a couple of years. He would go with me the first couple of years as my manager, and he kept catching me giving them away. Somebody would come up with two little kids, and I'd say, "Here, take this. I don't want your $50. Just take it, And my son would say, "What are you doing? You're cutting into my 10% here."
It's listen. If I put my name on a bar napkin, even for these freaking local people around here, they're giving me money. That's all I know. I'm charging them for a goddamn. If they want my signature, they're paying for mine. I don't care if they are locals.
It's expected. It's expected now. Back then I felt like an idiot.
Yeah.
And,
okay. I roll. The people that I'm right on the main drag in First Street in Lehighton, so I've got a great thoroughfare. I even roll the homeless here for money. That's what I do. I even roll the homeless for money.
I hadn't thought of that. I'll take that in consideration.
You're right. That's it. If they have a nickel, I'm taking it. I don't care. Too funny, Larry Kenney, voice actor, an illustrious career, and still out.
Oh, that's nice of you. Thank you.
Oh man, I'll tell you, it's been it's so cool. We could go on and on. I know I could, and something a little different, like I said. But I don't know, one or two more. Even though we did the voices, people that how the radio thing works. We have new people in and out all the time. Give me like Lion-O. Give me Sonny. Give me going Coco for Cocoa Puffs. I don't know, for people that just wanted, for people that wanted from Colossal Radio one more time, Larry Kenney. What can we do?
Well, let's do. We'll end with the big line from Thundercats that everybody always asks me to do 100 times at Comic-Con.
Yep.
You ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Thunder, 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 Thundercats! Oh! I still got it.
You still got it. You still got it, man. You still got it. You
definitely
still got it.
Doc, it's been a pleasure.
I'll tell you what. Listen, all I need, and we're gonna go back. We'll go back into some regular programming. We will. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that off.
Okay.
We'll do that off air. But don't hang up. We'll do something from Larry Kenney and voice actor extraordinaire. Next time you hear the Skittles commercial, the end line, that is Larry Kenney as well. We're all seeing that. So now we introduced you to a guy that is still doing it, and like I said, one hell of a career. But don't hang up. We'll do a click Colossal Radio liner or something right off the air. And
I'll be here, Doc. But thank you so much for having me on the show. I enjoy it.
Make sure you guys you can check out Larry Kenney as well on Facebook. He'll voyeur out. He'll make sure he does a background check on all of you. But check out Larry Kenney on Facebook Live. Tell him you're coming by way of the Colossal Radio Posse. All right, let's do some Elton John music, and we'll be back. Those of you that are on Facebook Live now, you can voyeur, or actually online. You can voyeur back in over to Facebook Live, all right? We'll be back, everybody. Stick around, all right? Absolutely, absolutely awesome time with you on the show, man. Thanks.
No, that was fun, Doc. That was fun. Thank you. What would you like me to say for you?
I don't know. Whatever. Even I don't care if it's in Lion-O's voice. It doesn't matter. I just throw. You know all about liners. I'm just going to give you Colossal Radio, whatever you want, however you want to put in Colossal Radio, whatever you want to do.
Do you want your name on it?
You could use Doc if you want. Whatever you want to do.
Okay. Let me think just a second here. If you're rolling, I'll just go right
Yeah, I'm rolling. So whatever you want to do, I can splice it up. I can dice it up.
Okay. Sword of Omens, come to my hand. I, Lion-O, command it. Hey, that's the voice of Lion-O from Thundercast. I remember that. Probably because I'm the guy who did it. I'm Larry Kenney. I just want to let you know that I listen to Colossal Radio and Doc all the time. And you should too. All right? Say it with me now. Thunder. Thundercast. Oh!
That is you guys didn't hear that on Facebook Live, only I did in my headphones, but that is absolutely kick ass. That is absolutely kick ass, man. That is totally cool. Listen, like I said, I can't thank you enough. I got to thank my booking agent Dave Miller, who knows so many people throughout. And I'll tell you, those of you that are on Facebook Live now, which I don't know how many are on there at this point, but so many people will go back and watch the Facebook Live video when they have time as well. But I'll tell you, this guy knows everybody. I'm so happy, Larry, that we were able to hook up. This was absolutely awesome to put, to certainly at least have a voice like yours on the show. And honestly, continued success, man. You're still at it.
Thank you, Doc. You too, buddy.
Listen, we'll stay in touch. Anything that comes up, man, like I said, I did friend request you on Facebook. You can check that out. I'm quite certain you'll get a couple of other people that'll be in there as well. And who knows, some of these people might even hook up with you there at Comic-Con and say, I heard you on Colossal Radio, man. It'll be pretty cool.
Fantastic.
Listen, all the best to you, man. Thank you so much. And like I said, continued success.
Thank you, Doc. You too.
See you later, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was cool, man. That was like way freaking cool. All right, hang on.